everybody, and welcome in to another episode of the Couch GMs podcast. It is Thursday, December 11th, 2025. I'm your host, George Kurt, joined by the one and only Cody Roadcap. Good job filling in for me on the intro and everything, Cody, on Monday, but I'm happy to be back in the driver's seat and feel a little bit better.
I'm glad you're feeling better because you're going to need to pick me up this week as I missed the fantasy playoffs by quite a bit. Not as by that last second Jalen Hurts, which we saw a couple of people sending us some different screenshots of that costing them a playoff spot. But it came up short. A couple teams I thought were better than they were end up missing the playoffs. 7-7, 8-5 is kind of my year.
I mean, honestly, I'm not too far off, but I ended up 8-6 in our league of record, which is probably what you're talking about, where I beat you when you're trying to get in, and ended up a 3 seed after starting 1-6 on the year, which is just crazy.
Yeah, and that was a team that like I was winning, and I don't know how because my league of record team sucked this year. I went too hard on some players and they didn't work out, but that's the beauty of fantasy football. So
yes, it is, but at least you're still in the playoffs in the Couch Jams World Cup, keeping it alive there. You and I are going to talk about that. We never even talked about when we're going to talk about it, if it's going to be before our news or not, but we can go with that on the fly. In the meantime, make sure you're following us at the Couch GMs, Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok to get even more than you do from the show here. You can DM us with any fantasy questions, obviously, more important than ever, going into the fantasy playoffs. Or you can watch us live Mondays and Thursdays at 6:30 East on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch to get your questions answered live on the air. What are we doing, Cody? What's next? What is happening? Cool. There was a very controversial Joe Burrow press conference that happened earlier this week where he hinted at a lot of things happening, a lot of things that he's going through, and he kind of teased an early retirement potentially. Are we believing there's a potential early retirement? Do we think that Joe Burrow just wants out of Cincy? Where are you kind of at on a vibe check after hearing all that stuff he said?
That's a great question. And I've kind of gone back and forth with this one. I feel like he's disappointed because their playoff hopes are, I believe, at 3% right now. They still have a slight chance. They need a lot of help, but just another season of being injured. He's kind of been on, one off, staying healthy. That's been a problem as well. Maybe he wants a change of scenery. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe he's thinking about pulling an Andrew Luck and doing an early retirement. But just remember, probably 2 months ago, maybe not quite, I said, just pay attention to potentially Joe Burrow getting traded this offseason. Maybe to a team like the New York Jets that now have some extra first-round picks. They want a veteran quarterback. Just keep that tucked away back in your mind. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I don't really want that to happen. But it does seem like eventually, I mean, everyone does eventually, but it seems like sooner rather than later, Joe Burrow and Cincinnati are headed for a breakup.
He's been trying to be the guy that's bucked the Cincinnati trend for a long time here. And I still think like you've seen some signs of Cincinnati being willing to like go out there and do the thing on top of them finally getting an indoor practice facility. Like they gave him the big contract. They gave Jamar Chase the big contract. They fake gave T Higgins the big contract. But like they still haven't gone all in with like doing everything you can to manipulate the cap. Find a way to find him an offensive line and a defense. Like they've been half in, it almost feels like, and they don't either have the people in the house to really figure out how to make a run, or they haven't been willing to spend the money to make the run. And it's kind of hard to tell which way it is that it's going. But I understand his frustration on top of the fact that not having an offensive line his entire career has made so many injuries. And I wouldn't be quite shocked if he decides to do the early retirement route with how banged up he's gotten. It would really be sad to see it happen. It was sad when it happened with Andrew Luck because we saw all the potential and how much he could have done in the second half of his career that never happened. So I hope it doesn't happen that way, but it's possible.
Yeah, I think the early retirement is the least likely outcome of the three, whether it's move on, stay in Cincinnati, retire. And I think the Bengals have tried at points. Like they went out and signed, I mean, this is a couple years ago now, Orlando Brown from the Chiefs to try to bolster the offensive line. They tried the La'el Collins thing before he fell off so like they've tried at times, and it just seems like they swing and miss. And maybe that's
Mhm.
the personnel department being the smallest in the league that's caused problems. Maybe these comments are stemming from like he's ready to move on from, and I'm don't want to put words in Joe Burrow's mouth. This is just me speculating. Maybe he's ready to move on from Zach Taylor. He wants someone new. Maybe his former offensive coordinator at college, Joe Brady, bring him in with Jamar Chase from the Buffalo Bills. That kind of situation. And the other part of it is too is I think he was probably just really feeling like he let his team down. That Sunday game was wild. They were up, I believe, 10 points, maybe 18 points. I forget what the actual number is. And then he had 2 back-to-back tipped interceptions. And
Yeah.
before you know it, they were down by 10 points in a game they had to win to really keep their legitimate playoff hopes alive. So I just think he's going through it right now. Like the weight of this season sitting on him, I think he'll bounce back. Hopefully in Cincinnati, balling out with Jamar Chase, maybe some new faces around him. But it was definitely it raised some eyebrows for sure.
Yeah, definitely something that shook the early week news cycle because nobody wants to see Joe Burrow step away that early. I do think there's a chance he ends up getting moved. I don't think it's a great chance. It doesn't seem like I think it's as likely as you do, but it's something that's going to give us some talking points in the offseason, I'm sure. It's not going to be something that goes away.
Yeah, I don't know. The only reason that I don't see them being moved is I have a hard I almost view him and Jamar Chase as like a package deal.
Yeah.
Like if one of them leaves, the other one's going to be super upset. And I don't know if trading Joe Burrow would that push Jamar Chase out that he now demands a trade or something along, unless like the Jets are going to be like 3 first-round picks and Garrett Wilson for both of them and just like really shock the NFL world or something like that. But
that'd be something. I mean, they have the ammo now.
they do.
Ridiculous.
They just want Broadway Joe back. That's all.
Yeah. The one that sold his soul to the devil for a Super Bowl, and that's why they're cursed. Is that what it is?
Yeah, so they need another Joe to break it.
Oh, got it. Okay. Cody cracked the code. 3 first-round picks and Garrett Wilson to the Bengals. Let's do it.
You know what? Throw in Will McDonald too. Just because.
Why not? Just throw him in.
All right. What's next?
We talked on the Monday show as it broke live reaction. Phillip Rivers returning. He was officially signed by the Colts, and it looks like he has a chance to start this week. Yeah.
I still not fully over this, of believing this. And there's a part of me that's like, there's no way he comes back not to start. Right?
I mean, yeah, but when you consider in the building for 5 days, like I could see him not coming back and wanting to sit on the bench, but that first week.
Okay. So in this hypothetical situation, Riley Leonard, their rookie who plays through an injury, gets a win. Are you now going to bench him for 44-year-old granddaddy Phillip Rivers? Or like, do you just have to play him right now? Like, I feel like he has to play. Now, I do think like him himself even said it is like his relationship with Shane Steichen is the reason. Like they had still been talking on the regular since he left Indianapolis, but it's still crazy to me that he's back. He's already back in Madden. He's 70 overall. You can play with him today, but I think he almost has to start. Like,
So was Steichen on that staff when 2020? I know Nick Sirianni was the offensive coordinator and Frank Reich was the head coach.
I don't know if he was on that. I can't remember if he was on that staff or if he was when he was in LA before. I'd have to go back and look at
That's true because Steichen came from LA. That's probably what it is.
Yeah, I can look it up.
So he knows the system. I mean, through people too, because Sirianni and Steichen have the connection too, and like so it's still.
Yeah, so he was with the Chargers from basically 2014 to 2020. So
okay, so he was there while Rivers was still in LA. Mm-hmm. Okay, or San Diego at most of that point.
Yeah,
got it. Okay, so it is. I don't think he's probably going to be up on the playbook, but he definitely knows a lot of what they're trying to do if he's had that much time with Steichen.
Yeah, he was his quarterback coach, just for.
Got it. Cool.
All right. Injuries?
Injuries. Don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this, especially for those that are listening on podcast platform. But if you have any questions about it for tonight, drop them in the chat. No Drake London tonight. Just a reminder there to make sure he's out of your lineups. But Mike Evans coming back in the lineup for Tampa Bay. I don't want to spoil too much for your future if you want to talk about them further down the road. But are you interested in starting Mike Evans? Come right in cold in the fantasy playoffs. Does it affect your thoughts on Ibuka or Godwin or anything like that?
If you made the playoffs with how much time Mike Evans has missed, you could probably not play him and just roll with what you have been, since there's no buys this week. However, that's correct, until the first round of the playoffs, but we're not talking fantasy football then. I also think, though, if you made it holding on to him, I'd rather go down swinging with Mike Evans than someone else. So I guess it really depends for if you need to play him or not. I know that's a terrible answer to give on a podcast. This well broken down, thoughtful, long out, drawn out answer that I just gave was, do you need to play him or not? Mike Evans returning is great. The Buccaneers have been struggling as of late. I mean, not as hot and as flashy as they were to begin the season.
Yeah.
So I think you can play any of those three: Godwin, Ibuka, Evans. It's a really good matchup. I think that's what's, making it easier for me to say play all three, kind of see what happens, and we'll reevaluate next week.
So you say it's a good matchup. Our friend Blurpy over on YouTube, Mariota or Baker this week, 4-point passing touchdown league sets standard quarterback scoring. And he believes that Commanders Giants might have some flurries this week. I'm not too worried about that on that end. I'm leaning Baker because of the matchup anyway.
Yeah, I mean, they're both good matchups. And I know they thought they were getting Jayden Daniels back last week, and he ended up re-injuring himself. But that Vikings team was very bad, and they got 31-0. I'm not playing Mariota. I don't trust that offense. I don't think there's enough pieces around there. There's not really any Commanders that you want to play.
You could argue Terry. I mean, you talk me into Terry in some cases.
Yeah, depending on who you got, but you've missed him for a lot of the season too. So for me, Baker, and I do know this is not directly related to your question. I know the first round of the fantasy playoffs, it's always scary playing someone on Thursday, because if they have a bad game, then you have to think about that decision for 3 days and hope that it can overcome, what happened. But Baker should be good in their lineup, and even they throw touchdowns to the running backs too, so I think that helps.
He does have a good point. The Vikings defense is technically a red matchup for most offensive players, but I know they've been susceptible to big games at times this year too. It was interesting to see Washington get completely shut out, really.
Yeah, their team is struggling. I'll just put it that. Watching them play, I didn't watch the Commanders game that closely, but I would watch the Vikings pretty closely the couple weeks prior, including when the Packers played them, and not even that game. It was just, I was like, I'd rather do something else than watch football than watch this team because of how poorly they were playing. So that 31-0 definitely caught me by surprise, but that's just another reason why I'm not playing Mariota.
Yeah, I'm sticking with Baker and riding the guy who probably got you most of the way here. I'll rapid fire a couple injuries. You mentioned Jayden Daniels with the injuring the elbow. He's out this week while we're talking Mariota there. Geno Smith not expected to play this weekend against the Eagles, so it's going to be a Kenny Pickett revenge game there in that Raiders-Eagles game. And then moving on to the Cardinals, Trey Benson was not activated from IR, as we were kind of thinking was leaning that way. He is going to be out for the season. Looks like Bam Knight's the guy the rest of the way, and he's somebody we were playing probably based on matchup. And then no Marvin Harrison more than likely this week, as he still hasn't practiced with that heel injury he's been dealing with the last two.
Yeah. I don't have much on to add for any of those guys.
Michael Wilson, big play again, or are we kind of looking at potential regression?
Michael Wilson scares me just because the Texans. Wow, that was the longest brain freeze that I think I've had
It
in a
was
long
not as
time.
long as it's felt in your head, I'm sure.
But the Texans are just such a good defense right now, so that scares me.
Mm.
But you shared with me some interesting stats for, most commonly found players on teams on the number 1 seeds. And I did think number 10 was one Mr. Michael Wilson. So that was a fascinating thing since you brought him up.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even know how much I really like want to count that as a thing because he was somebody who was just added off of free agency like 2-3 weeks ago, when a lot of the other guys on the list were like Jonathan Taylor, CMC, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, like guys who you drafted like fairly high in your draft and have had the whole year. So he kind of felt like the odd man out on those lists. But it's interesting that there's a lot of 1 seeds who went out there and made that right move.
For sure. All right, let's do some running back injuries.
Let's do it. So, looking at the Texans' backfield, Woody Marks limited participant on Thursday. Chubb went DNP twice so far this week. Kind of takes, I guess, potentially Chubb out of the backfield mix. Maybe gives Marks a couple extra carries if he's somebody you have to rely on. And then we got Devon Achane, limited participant on Thursday. He's trending towards going, which is good to hear because he plays a night game. And then for the Packers, Josh Jacobs has not practiced yet this week. So hopefully you held on to Emmanuel Wilson if you're somebody who was a Jacobs owner and grabbed him a few weeks ago.
Yeah, this injury for Josh Jacobs stems from the bone bruise knee injury that he had against the Giants playing on the MetLife turf. I think he'll be good to go. I think he's one of those guys that can play without practice if needed. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets limited, though, on Friday. It is a tough matchup with the Broncos, which does scare me about playing Emmanuel Wilson. I mean, if you have to sub them, you can. But, like, if you're not the Jacobs owner, I don't know if him being out means Emmanuel Wilson is a must start just because of the matchup.
I mean, there's some cases where, Wilson could still end up being a must start. Like, would you play him or Jaden Reed or Jaden Higgins?
Well, then you're talking a flex spot. I'm talking like
flex spot.
So you're already talking like you don't need the running back there in general. So that's what I was more saying. In that situation, Higgins intrigues me. He still hasn't had that big boom week yet. Same with Jaden Reed.
Pretty involved.
Yeah, Jaden Higgins, I would consider. Reed, same thing. It's a really tough matchup against Denver. They're on a 10-game win streak. Their defense is really good, but he had a really strong showing in his first game back since week 2. So I'd probably lean either of those over Emmanuel Wilson just because of the matchup. But that is pretty close for like the borderline flex plays and stuff like that. But traditional running backs, I think you can find better options than Emmanuel.
Yeah. And then just to back up on the Achane thing, it looks good for him. But if he's still available in your league and you're an Achane owner, go check for Jalen Wright on the waiver wire. He was added pretty much everywhere, I think, but good insurance policy. And I mean, if you end up in a really big bind and you can't get Wright, you can always add Ollie Gordon as well and hope that backfield split works in your favor in an emergency.
I got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
You tell me if what I did was mean or not.
Yeah.
So in a league, it's a fab league. I missed the playoffs in that league. And because I didn't make enough moves, I guess, and I had a ton of fab dollars left.
Okay.
So I spent all my fab on Jalen Wright, even though I'm not in the playoffs.
And I'm assuming the Achane owner's in the playoffs because he's one of those guys that's in most playoff teams.
I mean, I didn't go through every team to check, but yes. Let's just say hypothetical for the question to make it even more juicy. He is. What does that mean?
I mean, I'm going to say no, it's fair game unless your league's rules would not allow you to do it if it was that bad. Like in our league of record, for example, we have the losers bracket playing for seeding, or I should say like draws in the draft lottery the next year. So you want to be able to stay competitive. Since we switched to Fab, we don't really do anything with those waiver spots anymore in the playoffs. When we were just doing, regular waivers, we would just move them to the bottom of the priority. Still allowing them to make moves, but then obviously the, right would have probably went to a playoff team. I think it's fair game. Unless your rules, don't allow it, go for it.
Alrighty. And then I think the only other 2 injuries we got to talk about is T. Higgins, limited participant in practice with the concussion. And then CeeDee Lamb was moved to a full participant on Thursday. Looks like he is good to go.
Yes, definitely good to hear with CD. And I mean, honestly, with T, also limited participant usually means getting close to the end of that concussion protocol. Hopefully it was nothing serious, but just a little flare up after we know it didn't actually even leave a game with a concussion. All right, Cody, are we on to starts and sits?
Yes.
I don't know why you said oops, because you hit the right button.
I said oops because I almost hit the wrong button, because instead of clicking it, I almost hit delete. And then we wouldn't have had a bumper. So it was a soft oops, but it almost was like a oops or an oh my God or a whoops or whatever. I'm sorry.
You're fine. All right. Starts and sits. So we are going to do a running back, a receiver, and a flex each. Reminder, the flex doesn't have to necessarily be someone in the flex position. It's just either a wide receiver or a running back. Or if you want to be wild, a tight end. And I actually noticed that Cody and I, in starts at least, both put a bonus. So you guys get 4 players from each of us in the starts category. Who do you got at running back?
All right. I am going with, now call me crazy, my start of the week, Aaron Jones versus the Dallas Cowboys.
Dallas's defense is so bad that I understand.
Okay, their defense is bad. But also, Aaron Jones
offense is bad.
The Vikings offense is bad, but Aaron Jones is from the Texas. The Texas. El Paso, if you want to be exact, but always has big games against Dallas. Using StatMuse here, so if it's wrong, blame the internet. In his 3 career games versus Dallas or at Dallas, 62 carries for 370 yards, 6 touchdowns in those 3 games. That feels low too, because that doesn't include the playoff games and stuff like that. So he always shows out in Big D, and I expect him to do it again this week.
All right, I want to test how crazy you are with this one. I am in round 2 in the league because that league started way too early in the playoffs. My flex position can either be one Aaron Jones, Omarion Hampton, or Cortland Sutton. Who would you go with?
Aaron Jones.
That's what I figured you would say.
I would go Jones, Sutton,
and then Hampton. Just because Hampton's in that split currently.
Yeah, and I'll talk about him in a minute. Tease.
All right. My running back start, I'm going to Cleveland. I'm going to go Quinshon Judkins versus the Bears. The Bears have been susceptible to a lot of big play running plays so far this year. And even though Judkins has been up and down and is not getting all the passing down work, I could see him breaking a big one in this game.
No, I like Judkins in this one. So I have no hard feelings about that one.
Cool. Wide receiver, what do you got?
I'm going to go with this one was a lot tougher for me to find a wide receiver to start, because I feel like the wide receivers you want to play are in your starting lineups. But I'm going to keep rolling with Jakobi Meyers this week. It's a good matchup versus the Jets. He's really come in there and helped, stabilize that passing room, even to the point where Brian Thomas Jr., sorry, completely different player, is starting to rebound a little bit. Not back into your lineup caliber yet, but I think Jakobi Meyers has helped in that one, and it's another good matchup, especially with no Sauce Gardner there anymore.
I was a little worried because I saw the Brian Thomas, rebound a little bit, and it is technically a red matchup, but seeing now 3 straight 10 plus in half PPR from Jakobi Meyers, I can't argue with it.
Yeah, who do you got at wide receiver?
I'm doubling down. I was wrong last week. And I hope I'm right this week, because the matchup doesn't get any better. Literally 32nd against the wide receiver. Justin Jefferson needs to stay in your lineup.
This just still feels like a cop-out answer. I'm not going to lie. You're not going to convince me.
I'm not going to convince you that Jefferson should be here because he should still be started or because he's been so bad he just needs to be on your bench. Because you could look at it both ways here.
No, that people are actually thinking. I understand the numbers have not been great.
He's been under 5 like 3 straight weeks, I want to say.
I get that. But it's just one of those things, like I have a hard time believing that even when the numbers are telling you what the right thing is to do, that sitting Justin Jefferson was ever really an option. I get why he was. The stats say he should have been, and I get why you put him here. It's just still hard for my brain to comprehend.
No, and I get that too. But it's like, if you look at it by numbers, last 4 weeks, 5, 8, 6, 1, 2. That's 5 weeks. My bad. Even worse. Fantasy points and half PPR. His targets have been going down. He had 9, 12, 9 a few weeks ago, but then 6, 6, 4 the last 3 weeks. They put up how many points last week, and still he only got 4 targets, 2 catches. Like,
but one was a touchdown, right?
No, he had 2.1 points.
Hmm.
So he hasn't scored a touchdown since week 9.
9? And 9's back at quarterback? Woo! Sorry. I'm so sorry.
So, like, it's super hard for some of these people who, like, yeah, J-Jeff's probably just been a mainstay in the lineup, and he's going to end up staying a mainstay in your lineup because you got you here and you're. But
let's be honest.
There's definitely got to be people thinking, can I get more points elsewhere?
I get that. Let's be honest. If you have Justin Jefferson, you're probably not playing this week.
Possible. I actually know somebody who has Justin Jefferson and had a 10-win year and has a bye. Well, so they're also not playing this week, but in a totally different way than what you're saying.
That was my point, though. They're either were so good that it didn't matter, or they kept playing him and they're not in the playoffs.
All right, fair. But I'm still sticking with play Justin Jefferson. I have a bonus in here anyway, so if you really want to be like, don't do this, well, I have 3 guys regardless, but do you have it flex?
All right. At flex, I have Aaron Jones versus Dallas. No, I'm just kidding.
Play Aaron Jones in every position you possibly can.
Look, the Aaron Jones versus Dallas, top 3 running back on the week. Calling it right now. Bold prediction. But Chuba Hubbard versus the New Orleans Saints is my true flex option. Panthers were on bye. The week previous, you saw him start to get more and more worked in. This is, a Saints team that isn't the greatest. I mean, their defense is middling. The Panthers are in a playoff race. This is why it's my flex option. But if you ask me, who do I like better this week, Chuba or Rico? I think I'm starting to lean back to Chuba.
I'm also leaning back to Chuba, but because the matchup is good and there's still a split, I think you can still play Rico too.
Yeah, if you need to.
Mm-hmm. But no, the backfield's going back to Chuba. I think the Rico Dowdle, it's starting to like wear down.
I still think, though, the thing that concerns me about Chuba versus Rico is if Rico becomes the red zone, goal line, touchdown stealer.
Yeah.
And, he's still putting up 14-point weeks because he's getting a touchdown or 2, and Chuba's, barely breaking 10 because he's not getting the end zone. That does concern me. But I'll just go out and say both of them score this week, and it doesn't matter.
That'd be good. And I mean, I guess the other nice thing is, even if Chuba gets less of the touchdowns, he's going to get more of the passing game upside. He's going to have some extra points in PPR.
For sure.
So there's at least something to go around for either side there. That's good. My flex, I'm going to San Francisco, and I'm finally getting off the Ricky Pearsall bandwagon, but I'm saying play his teammate Juwan Jennings against Tennessee. Great matchup. Jennings has been all reliable, it seems like, this year. He was pretty good down the stretch last year, and I hope he kind of just replicates that and is that guy who can get you 10 to 15 every week.
Yeah, sure. The 49ers, like, it still amazes me that they're, a 9-win team, 10-win team currently?
Yeah, they're one of the most intriguing 9-win teams in the league.
They've had so many injuries. They're just finding ways to win.
Yeah.
I think they have, is it the Lions next week? I'd have to check the schedule.
I'll look for it while you're going here.
And once you pull it up and you're telling me, no, it's in 2 weeks, which it might be, I'm just see the Titans, and I'm kind of worried that for a trap game. That's all I was going with that, because I know they have some tough matchups coming up. And if it's the Lions for basically a playoff spot on the line, but that might be 2 weeks from now.
For the 49ers, no, it's Titans, Colts, Bears down the stretch here.
That's not accurate. You're missing a game.
Seahawks
4
at
games.
the end.
I'm pretty sure they have the Lions. Am I making that up?
You're making that up. San
Interesting.
Francisco has Tennessee.
Maybe Chicago
Indy.
has the Lions, and I'm getting my divisions confused.
Chicago has the Lions for sure. Yeah.
No.
But 3 down the stretch. So just to be like, hey, cool, play them in all 3.
Sorry, I meant Chicago has the 49ers. Did you say that? The 49ers play someone in the NFC North.
Lions.
No, I know that. They have listen, bro, you're not listening. Does the 49ers play the Bears?
Yes.
Okay. That's where I got confused.
Week
I know
17.
the Lions and the Bears play. They're in the same division. I got
49ers
that.
and the Bears play too. Yes. We're both saying the same thing, but we're not understanding that we're saying the same thing.
Yes, I got the Lions and 49ers matchup confused with 49ers Bears. There we go.
But the 49ers and Bears play also, which is where we're getting confused.
So the 49ers have the schedule that they should win all 4 games. The Seahawks one's iffy.
The Seahawks, but who knows if that's going to matter for either of them at that point. It might end up being a game for a division, even. You don't know.
This is why the NFC will probably have an 11-team win, miss the playoffs.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. I don't know where the heck we were. I'm sorry.
We're on to your bonus.
Oh, my bonus. Aaron Jones versus the Cowboys. No. I'm going to go with the guy that we mentioned was limited, but Woody Marks versus the Arizona Cardinals. It's just a really good matchup for Woody Marks. The Cardinals have been struggling as of late. Potentially no Nick Chubb adds into the mix there. They haven't been a high offense output, but this could be the week that changes that. So if you need a spot start, Woody Marks, I think, can be there. That's a guy you've probably been debating that flex start anyways.
Exactly. So I agree. Give him a little bit of a boost this week in your rankings. I like it. My bonus is Aaron Jones versus the Dallas Cowboys. I'm just kidding.
Nice.
I'm going Kenny Gainwell versus Miami. So I know backup running back, a little sketchy, but he's been super involved in the Steelers. I almost said Packers. Aaron Rodgers apparently throwing me off. Steelers offense in the past game. Like, 8, 6, 3, 7 targets for a running back over the last few weeks. So especially in a PPR, I love this. He's been over 10 points most weeks since they started really using him heavy in that role. I think I heard he's their second most successful pass catcher so far this year, behind only DK Metcalf. So you can almost play him in a flex like a wide receiver, even though he's a running back.
That's just gonna be scary going into Monday. I need 11 points from Kenny Gainwell to move on in the fantasy playoffs. That's gonna be a tough watch.
I mean, it'll be a tough watch, sure, but if you're in a situation where you're like me and your flex is Marv, and then you're looking at that like Jaden Higgins or Emmanuel Wilson, maybe Kenny Gainwell's up in that mix too.
Yeah. Sorry, I got distracted reading a comment. I'm going to throw it on the board.
Put it up.
All right, so Caleb Williams versus the Browns or JJ McCarthy versus Dallas. Playoff facial hair for George. Yes, thanks for noticing.
Yep, I didn't call it the playoff beard yet, especially because it's not a beard, it's playoff scruff. But yes, that is exactly what I'm doing, Kempy. Thank you for noticing.
He's actually been growing it out for the last 6 weeks since he's been on a win streak. It's just now starting to show.
I've been on a win streak for 7 weeks. Thank you.
Let me say I'm going to go in this one. I'm going to go with Caleb, the rushing ability. And I know the defense is good. George is picking Justin Jefferson as a start. I'm picking Aaron Jones, but I'm not picking 9.
I can't get myself to play 9. I'm going Caleb Williams also. and I don't really love it either.
Although he, as someone who also has both of these quarterbacks in a dynasty league, which number 1 seed with, I have Jordan Love as well, just all the NFC North quarterbacks. But
Nice.
I played Caleb last week and McCarthy outscored him, so take that for whatever it is.
I don't know. Browns defense got exposed a little bit by the Tennessee Titans of all teams. Maybe they're coming down.
I don't think they got exposed. They gave up 2 big runs.
Still, more than they usually give up.
That's true. They're probably like, oh, the Titans are coming to town. Who cares? Sorry, that was mean.
They got that second win of the year. All right. Sits, again, running back, receiver, flex. What do you got at running back for your sit?
My sit at running back. I'm going with that Cleveland Bears matchup, and I'm saying sit DeAndre Swift. Whether it's the emergence of Kyle Monangai, this defense, I know I just talked about that giving up 2 big runs. I think they're going to bounce back this week, and I am going to avoid playing Swift.
I don't really like playing either of them since I think the split really hurts them in a matchup like this, so I'm not complaining there either. My running back sit, looking at another bad matchup against Jacksonville, I'm sitting Breece Hall this week. And I know there's probably some people out there who are not going to have many better options and are going to have to play Breece Hall regardless, but he's definitely somebody who I am fading as that Jets offense has been so inconsistent, and it doesn't feel like a game where they're going to score like more than 14.
Yeah, I was actually going to pick this, but you beat me to the rundown, so I completely agree.
Cool. Wide receiver. Sit. This one hurts my soul. And maybe this is just me being superstitious. But I'm going to say sit. I'm going to say sit Christian Watson versus the Denver Broncos. He's been on a tear as of late, but this Broncos secondary is good. I think he's going to get a lot of Pat Surtain. And I just think it's going to be a slower day from him. He still has that big play threat. Like, he just needs one play to break double digits. That's the frustrating, or not the frustrating thing, but like the good thing about Christian Watson. But I think this is going to be a low scoring, hard fought defensive game. And so I'm going to take Christian Watson out of the lineup this week. A lot of people have gotten here on the stretch run with Christian Watson, so it's going to be hard for them to just pull him out of the lineup.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be tough. Like, his stats since he's come back is pretty incredible right now. But and if you made the playoffs, you probably made it riding Christian Watson or a player like that. So it's always tough to pull them out, but I'm gonna say do it.
All right. My wide receiver sits are all the Colts wide receivers against Seattle. First off, Seattle.
You don't trust Phillip?
I don't trust Grandpa Phillip. Tough matchup against Seattle for him to jump right into. They've already kind of all been taken away from each other. Like, Pittman had the good start to the year. Downs has been better lately. But I personally can't see them being able to go in there in a bad matchup and lean on Grandpa Phillip and go have a good game. So maybe it's that. Maybe it's also me just trying to will every fantasy point on that team to Jonathan Taylor. But I'm going to give it both reasons.
All right. So I have a question for you.
Okay.
Does that extend into the tight end and Tyler Warren?
I think Tyler Warren, number one tight end, being a different position too. I think if anyone's going to be, he needs to check down, it's Tyler Warren. I think he's good.
Okay. Now, what if I told you Tyler Warren, I'm struggling here to pull up the non-standard scoring, but in standard scoring, he hasn't scored 10 points since week 8.
It's also a tight end.
Okay. All right. George says you still play him.
I mean, how long do we ride with Kyle Pitts, even though it's his year?
Dude, ride or die.
Yep, exactly. Brenton Strange or Kyle Pitts?
Strange.
That's what I was thinking too. That's a
All right,
round
cool.
2 playoff matchup for me there. Okay. Flex, go ahead.
All right, I teased it earlier. I'm going to bench Omarion Hampton this week against the Kansas City Chiefs. It's a bad matchup. The Chiefs' run defense is good. The Chiefs are hanging on by a thread, and you saw how their defense stepped up last time. He's still in a split with Vidal. That was evident. I think it was pretty even in terms of touches in his first game back, which would be a good sign, but this is also a short week for them. So that's where I'm at with him.
I don't love that like we all waited on Hampton for so long and then it's like, go ahead, sit him. But I get it. And I think if you were able to get here in other ways and have other options, I wouldn't go away from it. But I think you can play him if you have to.
Gotcha.
It's kind of where I'm at on him. All right. My flex sit is a lot of people getting hyped up on Shedeur Sanders, and Jerry Jeudy had a long touchdown, but that's all he had was a long touchdown. So don't go out there and try to chase points and start Jerry Jeudy, please.
Alrighty. I like that one.
Cool. I think that does it for starts and sits, unless you have anyone else to throw in. If not, let's go on to streams of the week.
That is going to require me. I'm going to talk like I have something else, but it's just me getting back to the page to click the button.
Streams of the week, Cody and I look at some quarterbacks, tight ends, and defenses that are 60% or less owned on NFL.com that you can go out there and add and play in your leagues this week. I normally start us off, and I'll start with the quarterback. Trevor Lawrence versus the New York Jets. He's been somebody who's kind of been on the streaming radar for a few weeks now, and the matchup is prime.
Yeah, I like Trevor Lawrence. You talk about being a prime matchup, so I think that's a good one. My quarterback stream of the week is going to be Brock Purdy versus the Titans. Now, he is now crossed over that percentage zone. I know both George and I were able to get him in different leagues this past week, so check him. Now, if you're like the people that see the TikTok a couple days after and like they're already taken, well, let me just say, go look at CJ Stroud then. He is, I believe, only in the 20% owns, but he's a really good matchup against the Arizona Cardinals. He's starting to, come on. He had a tough matchup last week, but I think CJ Stroud could be a spot start if you needed him.
Yeah, I would go probably Purdy as my top end guy. And I know you and I both added him in a league to play this week, and then Lawrence second, and then Stroud is fine as well. I think that's a good way to put it. I'm going to jump on the play tight ends against Pittsburgh bandwagon and hope for the resurgence of a Darren Waller this week.
All right. Well, I'm going to stay on the let's play a tight end versus the Cincinnati Bengals bandwagon. And I'm going to pick Isaiah Likely, who is going to catch a touchdown, ensuring that he maintains possession and gets 2 feet down and then does some kind of celebration to prove that. Or maybe he just doesn't let go of the ball. I don't know what's going to happen, but he scores. Isaiah Likely is my YOLO tight end of the week.
He's been a lot more involved the last few weeks, so I like it. But I'm trying to think of another way that he can mess up a touchdown this week, because now he had the fumble through the end zone from the 1 yard line, and he had the get 2 feet down but not the third and drop it. Like, he already did the toe in the back of the end zone thing. That we can't go back to that. What other ways can he drop or miss a touchdown?
Maybe like deflection off his hands turns into an interception.
That'd be a good one.
Not for this situation.
That's not for this situation. No.
He's going to score.
Yeah. He's due.
So that's where I'm at.
Cool. And then finally, I am looking at the Bears defense as my streaming defense of the week versus Cleveland, just because even though if I think Cleveland's going to get a couple of scores, I don't think it's going to turn into a whole lot. It's a good matchup.
Yeah, and then for my defense, it's Jags versus the Jets. We don't know their quarterback situation yet. It could be someone terrible. I mean, well, it was probably always going to be someone terrible, but someone even be more terrible. No offense, Tyrod Taylor, I love you. Or Tyrod. But yeah, Jags defense, they like getting takeaways. The Jets will give it to them. Should be a great defense to stream this week.
Definitely one of my favorites out there.
again, they're another one that has now crossed the 60% threshold, but they were one I was pounding the table for on Monday. So it's a good reminder to check out the Monday show if you're looking for streaming caliber players, because you might have to get them early to beat the rush.
Honestly, especially this time of year when the wire hasn't been super strong, we're kind of looking at streams and handcuffs a lot of times when it comes to that Monday waiver wire.
For sure.
All right, let's jump into games of the week. I'll go first here again in case Cody decides to throw 7 honorable mentions at me. I'm going to pick that Goff and Stafford matchup we always love to see. Lions at Rams this week. Obviously, a lot of playoff implications. The Rams trying to stay ahead in their division and stay ahead in that number 1 seed. The Lions fighting for that final wild card spot and to potentially get up ahead of the Bears and Packers. It's a very tight race with I think it's like 8 teams and 7 spots right now.
Yeah, that is probably the game of the week. It is the Fox game of the week, so it'll be across the country at 4:25. I think it is going to be a very exciting game, and it's always fun when those two teams to get together. And I think the Rams are going to get the best of the Lions this time. I know the Lions have gotten the last couple, but this one is now in LA. So I think the Rams will get there, but we know LA is not a very good home field, and I'm sure the Lions fans are going to travel well. So shout out to that. But it's time for me to just go through the whole schedule and tell you which games are good. So Cleveland at Chicago, bad. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to go through all of the games, but my game of the week is, I went back and forth between a couple. I'm debating if I say them or not.
Go ahead, because there's one right. At least I want you to mention something about.
All right, so I'm going to obviously give an honorable mention to the 2 juggernaut games of the Broncos and Packers, but I'm not allowed to pick a Packers game for this segment, according to George. So I'll throw that in there. Then Buffalo at New England should be a fun one. They had a really good game before. I know George is pretty upset this one's at 1:00. I think the Packers Broncos game and the Lions Rams game will be better games, and they're both the primary game on the doubleheaders, because both teams both networks have a 4:00 game this week, for what it's worth.
Interesting.
But my game of the week is the Baltimore Ravens at Cincinnati Bengals. These teams always play hard. The Bengals have a very slim chance, but if they can get a victory here, it would make it a little bit more interesting in the the AFC North. The Baltimore Ravens are struggling. If they lose this game, they go back to being, just, it opens a whole things for the Ravens, the Bengals. So division rivals, that's the game I'm going to go with. Give it the slight edge over the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots.
Yeah, not only could this eliminate Cincy, essentially, I don't know if it does actually mathematically, it might. But if Cincy ends up winning and then the Steelers win, Baltimore could put themselves in a very bad spot too if they don't pull this game out. This is important for both teams.
For sure. And then speaking of this game, I know Jamar Chase was actually talking to the media, and they asked him about the Joe Burrow situation we talked about at the top of the show, and he said he doesn't look bummed to be here. He knows he loves football, but that's his question to answer. So that wasn't the exact quote. I paraphrased a little bit. If you want to see that, you can look it up, but give you an idea of that game. So a lot of really good matchups this week, and a lot of matchups that, I'm glad that, one game is going to dominate the market. So with that said, 5 4:00 games. Why now can we get that and not 3 weeks ago when we had 3? That's all I'm saying.
4 seems like a sweet spot, especially when you have some juggernaut games in there.
Yeah, 4 is fine. 3 sucks. 4 is fine. 5 seems like 5 just feels balanced, because you got 5 then, and then you have what's that? I'm not doing good at math right now. 8
it's
earlier.
Gonna be weird in the next couple weeks too, because we're gonna have some Saturdays mixed in there. The NFL just announced their week 17 schedule with some Saturdays. There's the Christmas triple header coming up too. So
yeah, 16, 17. They both have Saturday games. 18 will have a Saturday game. It just isn't announced yet, but it depending on because they wait to see who's left. But we'll see how that all plays out.
Yes, we will. Do you want to talk Thursday night and then we'll jump into the World Cup?
Sure.
Okay. Tonight's game, Falcons at Bucks. Falcons 4.5-point dogs, 44.5 on the over-under. Did already mention no Drake London tonight for the Falcons, but Kyle Pitts is up. Mike Evans returns for the Buccaneers to finally bring their wide receiver room back to full. I think they have Jalen McMillan back as well. So finally fully healthy in the wide receiver core, and hopefully Baker is feeling a little bit better in the shoulder too.
Yeah, hopefully. This game, I'm just really intrigued by this game to see how it, like on paper, this game should not be close at all, but the Buccaneers don't know how to play non-close games. So
no, they really don't.
Division matchup.
Divisional. Yep.
So Thursday night, this game could be fascinating. Like I mentioned, the standings, the Bucks have to keep winning to stay ahead of the Panthers who are chasing them, and you get some wins on there. They're both 7-6 currently. And the Falcons are one of the teams already eliminated from the playoffs. So, like, how much fight do they still have in them? Like, could Raheem Morris be one of the next coaches fired? A lot will be determined over the next couple of weeks. But if they could go in and beat a division rival on Thursday Night Football, that would be a big boost for them.
Hoping for a big game from Bijan. Kyle Pitts getting a touchdown, maybe. He doesn't do that a lot. And we'll see how
that your hypothetical? If you had $100, who you betting on anytime scorer?
I have a hard time betting any money on Kyle Pitts and touchdowns because he doesn't do that. My cash bet is probably Bijan. I feel like Mike Evans gets a touchdown coming back.
I'm taking Tyler Algier.
Shot.
So
Algier gets a lot of the red zone touches. It's a good point.
Taking Algier. That's my hypothetical bet. But are you ready to anything else you want to talk about this game, or you want to jump in the World Cup quick before we head out?
Let's jump into the World Cup. Man, I forgot you had a bumper. That's
me too. It's all last. So,
all right, make sure you drop that overlay for me before I bring this in, or it's going to look very dumb.
Oh yeah, 1 second. I got to do this.
Oh yeah, tri-colored background too. We're doing a good job here. All right, we have for you our final regular season standings for the Couch Jams World Cup, the end of year 3. So everyone in green has qualified by either championship, or you can see Bree has locked up the wild card spot. Obviously, more wild card spots could open up if there's a repeat champion. If she ends up winning a championship, it moves down to Colin, etc. And then the teams in red have not qualified by wild card and are eliminated from the playoffs in this season, so they cannot get a championship. I know you were saying in our group chat that you would love to see Levan down there at 13-29 win a championship, make a run this year, and just be funny.
Yeah, you'd love to see that. Him jumping in there. He has a solid team. I actually think we play each other, if I'm remembering correctly.
So you don't really want it?
No, but if I'm going to lose, I'd rather lose to the champ. So guess there is that as well. But yeah, if you're wondering, there's only 7 highlighted spots green because we know we needed at least 1 wild card. But whoever wins the championship, that's how Levan, if you're new here, can still make it. His name is Aaron on the sheet. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. But it's been a fun experience to kind of see how teams have shaken up over the course of 3 seasons, how their points were scored. Give a shout out to Marcus for being the only person in the Couch Jams World Cup for crossing 5,000 total points over the course of 3 seasons, which is an impressive feat. And just for anyone that's curious too, on it's a half-point PPR league. It's a fab league that plays the quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, and 2 flexes. No kickers and a defense. That's the format there for this as well. But both George and I are going to fight for a playoff to get back into the potential of getting it there, or hopefully 3 champions and or Bree can win so I can get the wild card spot.
Yeah, I don't have that luxury, but it's funny if you actually do play Levan. I play Ryan, who's down there at the 16-win team that's in between all that red that's almost eliminated but not. So you and I both play in teams that have not had a lot of regular season success but are still alive because of the playoffs.
Yeah, that is for sure. I actually do not play Levan. I think we were going to play each other, but then I ended up losing. Shocker. I had a really rough week 14. But yeah, I think it's been a fun experience to see it all play out, like I mentioned, and looking forward to potentially doing it again. And if this is something that might intrigue you, or always open to add players, we might change it up to do 12 people in the final round to give them more opportunities, or maybe make it you have to have at least a 500 record. Even if you win a championship, we're open for suggestions and stuff like that coming up for the next iteration of this, and we'll keep you updated through the rest of the playoffs.
Looking forward to striking more red in there, and we'll see how some storylines break out. Worth noting, every champion is in the playoffs currently except for Anthony. He was eliminated from Group C. Shelby and Sean both have buys. They're at least on to round 2. So in Cody's quest of trying to get a repeat champion, he's at least got 2 people on to the second round. And in Group C, where there's 3 champions in the playoffs, I actually looked. They're all bunched on the same side of the bracket. So there's at least one champ that's going to make it to a fantasy championship.
So I can already see this now. This is my luck. So again, I need basically all repeat winners or Bree to win. And we're going to get 2. I'm going to lose in the finals, and Bree's going to lose in the finals. Sorry, Bree. And I'm just going to miss the playoffs. I'll be that close. I can already see it now.
I mean, I know you're saying sorry, Bree, but I think she's happy she's just in, and her team is literally the entire LA Rams roster. She would be happy to get that far. She was scavenging together whatever she could just to get enough wins to get the wild card at this point.
Alrighty. Anything else you want to add about the Couch GMs World Cup?
No, I'm looking forward to keeping you guys updated with that. It's been a fun 3 years so far, and I mean, we're talking a lot about going into the next iteration potentially, but we have that championship group to run next year beforehand. So we still got a whole nother season between us talking about a potential rerun of this experiment.
Yeah, that's for sure. And everyone gets to play next year. We just break the leagues up to, one's a champion, one's basically a air consolation, but there's prizes for winning too. So nobody is out of it if they didn't make that final bracket. But we'll talk more about that in the coming weeks. George, any last words?
Good luck to everyone out there in their fantasy playoff matchups. I know I didn't get any buys, so I got a lot of matchups to prepare for this week. Still have the DMs open for questions. And yeah, I think that's what I got.
Alrighty. So George is going to continue to rock his playoff beard until his fantasy teams, the Eagles or the Cardinals, are episode of the Couch GMs podcast. We are live Mondays and Thursdays at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. In the podcast feeds the next morning, answering DMs on all social platforms. Make sure you check out our TikTok. We're doing a lot of good work over there. I'm Cody Roadcap. That's George Kurth. We'll talk to you all next week.